Well, hello, my name is Grace Molinex.
My name is Stephanie Barnes.
And this is our NHD performance, Changing the World One Step at a Time. Good morning, Mary.
Clara, how's your morning been?
Oh, it's simply been splendid.
Today's Sunday, right? Church day.
Glorious service it was. Would you be doing hand and paper, please?
Oh, of course.
Thank you, plenty. Mary, you'll never believe this. The ADA was passed 25 years ago today.
My goodness, I remember the day we all heard about the Americans with Disabilities Act like it was yesterday.
It was March 13th, 1990. An act of street theater protest known as the Capitol Crawl took place. We took a stand for the equal rights of people with disabilities.
We helped contribute to the passing of the ADA, and this day gave us, the world's largest minority, a sense of hope and dignity and new rights.
Everyone was so excited. This bill was going to change everything for us.
We could finally be seen as equals and quit being defined by our handicap.
We could truly live instead of just surviving.
It would give us our lives back. Do you remember that little girl?
How could I forget her? She was so brave.
Her name was Jennifer Keelan, right? She had cerebral palsy. She was like 6 or 7?
I believe so. And I remember when she crawled, she had so much determination and passion. She declared, "I will take all night if I have to." She crawled better than me.
That wasn't hard to do.
Hey.
Come on, you know I'm just teasing.
Do you remember life before the crawl?
I do. It was so hard. Everyone just... We were discriminated against and talked down to, made fun of, treated like we couldn't do anything ourselves.
It was a sad, terrible time. And those that didn't know us treated us like animals. And those that did treated us like helpless little babies.
Before the act, it was acceptable to be denied a learning opportunity or teaching job just because you were disabled.
I know all about that. No, I wanted to be a teacher. I remember fresh out of college, bright-eyed, ready for the future. I applied for a job at this nice little public school, and I was so excited. I clicked right away with the teachers and all the students. I loved it. But then a man came in, and he applied for the same job as me. He was far less qualified than me, and also able-bodied. Because they couldn't make any accommodations for me, he was hired and I was fired.
The really sad part was that teachers or students had no legal recourse to try and fight it.
No, the disabled were often ruled against in court.
We were left completely helpless.
And the really bad part was the parents and families of the disabled had to care and educate for their children completely on their own.
And that was no easy task.
No, it was not. They had to not only figure out how to function with a disabled child, they had to teach that disabled child how to function in society, something that they couldn't even fathom struggling with. This was often too much for some people, and it was often easier to seclude or send them away. Out of sight, out of mind.
Instead of forcing society to accommodate those with disabilities, society could simply ignore and neglect and treat unfairly anyone who didn't fit into the boxes they created for themselves.
If you had any kind of physical or mental disability, you were damned to an already rougher life.
The Americans with Disabilities Act had 4 goals: equal opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency.
The ADA was our shot at the American dream, a dream we never got the chance to live. But this bill needed to get passed, and now.
But Congress was putting it off, delaying the rights we deserved just because we were crippled.
We knew they were just trying to make us forget, but we would never, ever forget.
Didn't Jennifer Keelan just graduate?
I believe so. I think she wanted to be a physical therapist. I'll never forget that.
I remember at the crawl, she was so popular. She could mumble she was a little thirsty and was bombarded with water bottles from reporters left and right.
That little cutie wasn't going to make Congress see the importance of this bill. I don't know what would.
I don't know either.
I remember our friends at ABA PT invited us to the crawl, and we got there just before it, and it was so crowded.
There were so many people. Had to be over 1,000 activists from 30 different states rallying to get that bill signed. We hardly knew what we were in store for.
All we knew is we would finally grant those with disabilities the rights we deserve.
And it worked.
On July 22nd, 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law by President George Bush.
Bush recalled this day as a new sort of Independence Day.
A day, as he said, where every man, woman, and child with a disability can now pass through once closed doors into a new era of equality, independence, and freedom.
Do you know what? We were lucky to get to see this. We got to see history being made, something to tell our children and our children's children about.
And these struggles are often forgotten, and people take these things for granted. Handy accessible bathrooms, braille on signs, hotels, or elevators in hotels and schools.
Do you know what? That's okay. We're supposed to take these things for granted. We didn't do this so people would have to struggle and feel such discrimination against themselves. Never again.
Thank you.
Your script, how did you take your historical sources, decide on this is the way that you wanted to tell the story? I mean, there were a lot of ways you could have told this story. Tell us about the story of how your script developed.
Well, when we first saw this, we saw how dramatic and how monumental it was, and we figured the best way to display it was through theater. So we both worked on it together. Usually we were in the same vicinity when we worked on it, just so we could bounce back ideas. And I think the most helpful source for our research was interviews, especially since we were doing a performance, because it really gave us insights on before the crawl, during the crawl, after. So those, really, a lot of our dialogue was, based off of, the accounts of these, incredibly brave and, discriminated people.
Your thoughts?
I'd agree, because you don't really hear about the discrimination people with disabilities had to face. I mean, it was part of everyday life, and it was rarely, you don't see it in history books. You have to look it up to find it. And when we got this idea, we knew it would be something good to do, because we could just bring light to these events.
Okay. The sources that you used, particularly some of the narratives, did you actually do any interviewing, for example, with people in your community that had disabilities?
We got into contact with Dan Wilkinson, and he's a big advocate for disabled rights. He himself is in a wheelchair, and he got us into contact with lots of different people, people that were in the crawl, people that organized the crawl, just all these different sources and interviews.
Was it in terms of any of those interviews? I mean, it went very seamlessly. Which interviews or interview material did you use actually in the script?
What's her name? The one,
Jennifer Nichols.
Yeah.
The one that organized?
Yeah.
Stephanie Thomas.
Yeah. We got into contact with her, and we were texting her because she lives in a different time zone, and it was hard to be able to call her and have a real conversation because she's still working for the rights of people with disabilities, and it's hard to call her and have a real conversation with her. So we texted her, and that was a great source for us. She told us all about the crawl and how amazing it was to be there.
How did your secondary sources help you guys sort of put this kind of narrative together?
Wait, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
How did your secondary sources help you put this together?
Well, it gave us different views of people. It gave us, different views of the crawl and the act itself, and it gave us, information, updated information, because the bill is still being revised, still today. So it gave us, insight on, how people reacted and how people, kind of reacted and how it was taken.
How did you decide to present yourself? What that part of it?
Well, when we came to that, we thought the best way to do a performance about people with disabilities would to act as a person with a disability, to be able to, and this is only a small insight into what it's like to have a disability, and it's incredibly difficult. We both know that.
I was going to ask about that. Who are you? You of course are representing a group, but as characters, do you each have a story?
Well, each of us, each of our characters were involved in the crawl and, led, rough lives and knew that we had to do something. As I had said, my character wanted to be a teacher, and she, was so passionate and wanted to teach, kids of all different abilities, financial situations, shoe sizes. And so that's kind of her story, and where during the time of this, of us conversing in this performance, our thing is that we, are now in a retirement home, and we are, recalling about, we saw in a newspaper that, it was 25 years ago to the day that this historic bill was passed. And so we're just kind of reflecting on that and sharing our insights and what we witnessed.
Just one more question. How do you plan on, even if you continue on with this performance in your own lives, how do you plan on taking a stand for people with disabilities?
Well, for example, I actually want to become a special ed teacher. So this is, first of all, really close to my heart because of that reason. And so I plan to make sure that my students all have the same opportunities, and that my students feel that, I don't want them to ever feel like they can't do anything. I want to be sure that they have the same, that their opinions get expressed, that they do their best, that they, because not everyone works at the same pace. So I would make sure that my students, that I kept up with my students, and to make sure that they felt represented, and that they didn't feel pushed under the rug or thrown to the side, that they knew that they were important.
I feel a big part of you can take small stands, helping people. Make sure no one's talking bad about anyone about their disability, and making sure that they're treated fairly.
Okay. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.